All right, folks. Thanksgiving, Thursday. And we already know what's going to happen. Folks going to be sitting here. They already preparing their food. They already getting the side dishes, the main dish. Y'all know I'm going to be eating gumbo. And so, can you have a healthy Thanksgiving? You know it's going to be that person going to come to the house, and they're going to be sitting there trying to have y'all have a vegan Thanksgiving. They're going to be trying to tell you don't do the turkey. They're going to try to tell you how to fix the sides a little differently. So what should you do this week? How should you handle yourself? Well, let's go to personal trainer Rod Johnson, Steel of Fitness in Atlanta, with some ideas. All right, Rod, what do you tell your clients this week? What do you tell them to do and not to do?
So, Roland, I got to tell you, the first thing first is you can't start trying to eat healthy on Thanksgiving. That's the first thing. So
just ain't possible.
It ain't possible. You got to lead up to it. So the biggest thing is that for most people, I usually say, starting this week, all right, don't starve yourself. Just try to eat lighter. And lighter means just eat foods that we know that doesn't hold a lot of calories. Don't go hungry, because the fact of the matter is that if you start eating lighter, literally eating lighter, and you're hungry all the time, it's going to make it worse come Thanksgiving. So the biggest thing is that drink a lot of water, try to avoid a lot of excess sugar, and try to do this gradually. The biggest thing is make sure you have some protein in there each time you have a meal or a drink to ensure that you don't get hungry. Because the biggest thing is, I know Thanksgiving, most people say, hey, I'm not going to eat a whole lot, but they end up eating a whole more than they usually do. That's because the foods are usually heavier and laden with a lot of starch, a lot of butter and oils. So the biggest thing is that come Thanksgiving Day, make sure you have a nice breakfast. A breakfast, don't skip out on the breakfast. Make sure there's some protein with it. Make sure that when we talk about carbohydrates, we're usually talking about grains or fruits and things like that. And drink water throughout the day. And when it comes to the actual meal itself, just make sure, talk about healthy, breast of the meat, white meat. Think about, and if you're somebody who's used to eating casseroles or eating even the greens laden with a bunch of oils and stuff like that, if you're the one preparing the meal, think about pulling back on some of that. Research says that you can take out some of the butter and the oils up to 0.5% and still have good flavor. So if you're somebody who wants your family to live longer and be healthier, pull out some of that oil. I talk about the biggest thing when you talk about sweet potatoes. Instead of having just sweet potato pie, have some roasted sweet potatoes. Yeah, you may not like that, but I tell you, it makes a huge difference too. We also talk about adding some potatoes with there too, because it's colder out now. We want to have some more comfort food, so we eat a little heavier. But the thing is, you want to make sure that when you schedule your meal, you look at the starches, make sure it's balanced, and eat smaller portions too. Too often that we think that we have to have the most food on the plate in order to really truly enjoy it, and then we're stuffed the rest of the day. And so backing it up. So I usually say, if you're going to do something on Thanksgiving to really start your day so you have a nice hearty meal, if you want to, start off with a good breakfast like I mentioned, and a little walk, maybe a 20, 30-minute walk before you eat. Once you eat, sit down with the family, and after you eat, do some games with the family if you can, or go for a walk. Make sure activity is involved in there too. The meal itself, it's not all about the meal. It's really about you enjoying each other, right? But the food is the biggest thing that most people eye on. So really balance that out. And I usually encourage most people to really think about what are their goals beyond Thanksgiving Day. Because eating the same foods every single day beyond Thanksgiving is going to turn into a whole lot of ugliness. I know, Roland, you talked about earlier about being down 20 pounds. Most people are that and up since being in the pandemic. So you don't want to leave Thanksgiving adding another 5 and 10 pounds if you're eating that food and the next day and the day after that. Make sure you pull back on that, And there's nothing wrong with saving and freezing something, having some for maybe Christmas, but not every single day.
Well, I think also, the reality is this here, when you're talking about getting ready for Thanksgiving, when you're talking about, we know it's Thursday, It's, what are you deciding? What are you deciding? Today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. That's just one of the things that you have to actually decide. And so you don't go crazy, with your eating. And look, if you also going to eat more on Thursday, I think you also learn to pull back, if you will, and then also decide don't go buck wild crazy Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You're exactly right. And, speaking of that, so I usually say the biggest thing is you talk about Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When I said earlier about eating lighter, I'm saying eating lighter, but add a little activity with that too, because trust me, if you start pulling back on some of those calories, but not to the point that you're hungry, but pulling back on some of those calories, by the time you lead up to Thanksgiving, chances are you probably won't eat as much as you think you're going to eat. And two, when you do eat what you eat, we love the dressing. We love the macaroni and cheese. We love the greens and all those things laden with what is laden with. Because I'm not telling you not to enjoy yourself, but I am telling you to pull back on how much of that. Enjoy yourself. Just know, like we mentioned, the day after and the day after, make sure you eat a little lighter, meaning change food sources. Maybe not have those greens. Maybe have a salad. Maybe have some green beans, roasted green beans, or sauteed. It makes a huge difference. Just change the food. Thanksgiving is Thanksgiving, and it's meant for that day, not all the days beyond and before it.
All right, I'm a Congo. Julianne, what's your question?
I want to ask the brother, in terms of, you talk about pulling back, and people always talk about folks pulling back, but the fact is that when people are sitting around the table convivially and people are passing the stuff around and, people are having maybe a glass of wine or two, the limitations basically go away. You may have intended to eat properly, but you get with the gang and somebody says, oh, you're not going to have my mac and cheese? And basically, you can have another spoon of mac and cheese because it was your sister who made it. How do people convince themselves that Thanksgiving is about thanks living? Thank God for living long and being this healthy. How do we convince people to change their mindset even just a little bit?
Well, that's such a good point there. I tell you, we do tend to talk a lot, but the thing is, I find that the more you talk, the less you probably eat. And two is that when you think more healthily when you talk about Thanksgiving, just think about what are your goals? Do you want to have a better quality of life? Yeah, I want to eat. If I say yes, I want to eat a little better. Doesn't mean that you can't enjoy yourself on Thanksgiving, but it definitely means that this cannot be something that you do every single day. And you want to make sure you talk about it. Get some family members to go in with you and talk about, hey, let's go and do a big walk before and after eating. Let's go to the grocery store together and kind of figure out some foods that we can eat to make sure that we have a more healthful lifestyle beyond and before Thanksgiving.
Omakongo.
I really appreciate everything that you're talking about, sir. And one of the questions I have is, do you think that one of the things we should be considering is maybe increasing our liquid intake during the more? You talked about the breakfast, but I'm thinking maybe if we're drinking some more water.
All depends on what liquid.
That's what I was about to say. Right. I was about to say, I'm thinking like, some water, some teas. It can kind of help suppress the hunger a little bit for when it's mealtime. Could that help as well?
No, you're exactly right. I think when I talk about having a nice breakfast, particularly on Thanksgiving Day, is key. And also having water with it. Having water and when I say having water after it, like a snack time, adding some fruits and vegetables with that, and protein as well. I say protein because it keeps you satiated. It keeps you full longer. So having some protein, drinking fluids, water with that, and throughout the day kind of helps. And even throughout the week to kind of prepare yourself too. Kind of help get that system good and ready for what you're about to do on Thanksgiving. So yeah, fluid is so important. Limit the alcohol, limit the mixers that we usually add with the alcohol too. I know we love that wine and we love other things too, is that think about that too. Put that in moderation too. Think about it. If you're going to have it, maybe have it just when you're sitting around and eating. Like I mentioned earlier, most times if you're just talking, usually you're eating less anyway. And by the time you finish talking, the food is cold and you are going to heat it up or you just don't want it. So think about it that way as well.
Oh, they're going to have that Hennessy and cognac. That's going to happen. All right. Rod Johnson, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much.
I appreciate you. Thanks for your time.
All right, folks. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Betty is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon. So now, she's free to become Bear Hug Betty. Settle in, kids. You'll be there a while. Ooh, where you going?
This weekend for the Bayou Classic, broadcasting live in partnership with Coca-Cola Friday and Saturday. You do not want to miss it. So Black Star Network will be on the scene. That's right, covering the coaches' luncheon on Friday. We'll be broadcasting Friday night. Then, of course, we'll be broadcasting from the Fan Zone. There's a parade Saturday morning, broadcasting that. Plus from the Fan Zone, in addition, we'll be broadcasting the halftime. That's right, y'all. Don't worry about the rest of these folk. Don't worry about it. NBC doesn't show it. We'll be showing you the halftime show right here on the Black Star Network.